Hi and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
Hello there, radio fans. You are listening to Z Games, Australia's most beloved gaming radio program. We are coming to you live from the 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane, but you might be listening to us around the nation on the Community Radio Network, or maybe you're just podcasting us, and that's fine too, I guess, right? That's okay.
Yeah, we love those people.
Yeah, you guys are the best. Yay! I'm Lee, and that was Jody.
Hello.
There's Jody McGregor. Razor is manning the machine.
Hi.
There he is. What are we talking about on this show?
Lee, you and I have been playing Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain.
Yes, we have.
It's another stealth game starring our favorite secret agent Snake.
Yeah.
Or one of the snakes.
One of the various snakes.
Yeah.
He's, is he Venomed Snake?
Yes, Venom Snake.
Yeah.
And a dog, right?
Yeah,
There's a
D-Dog.
dog. Have you both got the dog?
Yeah, got the
All
dog.
right. Just wanted to check.
And there's a horse.
Yeah, but there's a dog.
Big fan of both the dog and the horse. But
Oh.
we'll get to that later.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Jody, you have been playing Warhammer 40k Regicide.
Yeah, the new Warhammer 40,000 game is chess, but chess with space marines and orcs and guns.
So your chess pieces, your pawns have guns now.
Yes, they do.
I feel like that would be an improvement. Sort of.
Well, then this might be the game for you.
But let's get this episode started with the weekend gaming news headlines. Mr. Jody?
Sure thing. Metal Gear Solid 5 publisher Konami has denied that they are walking away from AAA game development, responding to claims made by French site Gameblog earlier this week. A representative said that they would continue to develop games for popular franchises such as Castlevania, Silent Hill, and Metal Gear Solid. The claims follow the departure of technology director Julian Merceron, who developed the Fox engine that powers both Metal Gear Solid 5 and Pro Evolution Soccer. This is the latest indicator of internal turmoil at the company, which has been accused of having oppressive work conditions for its employees.
So these are all good franchises that have in the past kind of been overseen by the auteur who was in charge of them, right? So if they want to keep making games in the Silent Hill and Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid franchises without anyone who ever actually knew what they were doing in series that really were hundreds of people worked on them, but you could get a sense of the singular genius madman who was holding that whole project together.
Well, I think Silent Hill is the one that bounced around the most, but even that had Akira Yamaoka doing the music for almost all of the games in that series, so that there was at least something unifying it thematically.
Yeah. So Konami probably found all of his instruments and threw them out into an alley or something. So there's no way that he's coming back either.
Well, from what I understand it, Konami makes most of its money now from licensed pachinko machines.
Yes.
Because that's a massive business in Japan. It's essentially just pokies, but it makes tons and tons of money, and the new Castlevania machine is making them a lot of money. Like, if you want to play the new Castlevania, you have to play a pachinko machine called Castlevania Erotic Pachinko.
And I would play that at the drop of a hat, yes. So I could see why that would make money.
Yeah, so the not quite as money-making video game industry is sort of a secondary consideration to them. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's sad, though.
It really is.
That they're just maybe going to keep making Pro Evolution Soccer games forever.
Well, because they don't have to change them. They just have to print a new disc every year.
Those are the games that don't have auteurs.
Yeah.
Video game voice actors are currently voting on whether to go on strike in order to resolve a negotiation over contract terms. SAG-AFTRA, the union representing video game voice performers, wants to introduce back-end bonuses where actors receive bonus payments if the product hits certain sales milestones. This is common in film actors' contracts, but not for video game voice actors. Additionally, SAG-AFTRA wants to introduce stunt pay for vocally stressful performances and instances where the performers must perform physical stunts for motion capture. Video game publishers and SAG-AFTRA have agreed not to release any information to the media until the issue is resolved.
I have seen a number of voice actors who have openly declared that they are voting yes, but Nolan North is not amongst them, and so 98% of all video game characters are safe and will continue to be voiced as long as he doesn't go on strike. But Jennifer Hale is going on strike, or has agreed to vote, is voting to strike, and so all female characters in games will be silent from this point on.
And Krem from Dragon Age Inquisition, who is transgender, and Jennifer Hale voices.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
So,
Yes.
yeah. The thing about motion capture is interesting. Wasn't it the Splinter Cell series where they recast the voice of Sam Fisher because they had an older voice actor playing him, and they wanted to introduce motion capture and like live vocal takes, and so that's why they got a younger dude to play him, because he needed to be able to deliver his lines while climbing up walls and shooting at pretend dudes.
That's really interesting and seems so needless. Like just get him in the booth and get another man to climb up a hill, right? Like we'd
be able to tell, we'd know.
He's an actor.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't James Earl Jones in the Darth Vader costume, and that didn't seem to hinder his performance.
That's a good point. Dead Island Epidemic, a planned MOBA based on the popular Dead Island series, has been cancelled. The game is currently in open beta, but all servers will be deactivated on the 15th of October. Incentives will be given for players who want to spend any remaining currency before the servers shut down.
I slipped this into the news because I was expecting that Candy would be in here, and Candy is the only person on the planet who still cares about the Dead Island franchise. But she doesn't play MOBAs, so you know that's why that failed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Hitman reboot has been delayed. Previously expected for release in December, the new date is March 2016. A statement by IO Interactive said that the delay was due to the developer wanting to launch the game with more content. They also claimed that one of the levels in the new game will be 6 times the size of the largest level found in Hitman Absolution.
Have either of you guys been keeping up on the development of this game?
I've heard really crazy stuff about how it's going to work that makes no sense to me.
Yes. Yeah. So the idea, as I understand it, is that the game isn't going to launch with all of the content that it will have ultimately included, and they will be releasing like levels and new missions. And somehow, though, this isn't like a DLC style of thing. This is just that the game will just grow and evolve based on how people are playing it, right? And it's going to be more open Hitman style puzzle missions rather than the narrow linear narrative focused ones that they had in the previous game. And then they would just be able to plug more content into these new open spaces, right? Which is a very cool idea, but I think also like this kind of situation maybe means that not many people responded well to being told that you'll buy the game and eventually you will get all of the game. So, you know, that's fine. Just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that, like, we've always been wary of DLC and the even free digital content that gets delivered further down the track. It's the sandwich that you buy that you don't get the meat until, like, January, right? That's
one way of looking at it.
Try and, like, fault my analogy, Jody, if you can.
What if you're a vegetarian?
Well, then don't eat that component when it comes out in January.
Persona 5 has also been delayed. Expected at the end of this year, the game has been pushed back until mid-2016.
A little bit disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely one of the games that was on my radar for this year. But I'm happy if they're going to take the time to polish it up, make it nice. I'm fine with that.
Hasn't the Persona 4 dancing game just come out?
It's coming out at the end of the month.
Right.
Yes.
Are you going to pick that up? You know, to fill the
tempting.
gap?
Have you already pre-ordered it?
No.
Are you playing it right now under the table?
I wish.
He's dancing right now.
Yeah, no, I don't know. In Japan, they just love their spin-offs. They have a far larger tolerance than we do over here in the West for these crazy games that are only peripherally related to the hit franchises. This dancing one seems to be a real test of my patience in there. I don't know, like, really a dancing game? Do we need it? I don't think so.
You're still going to get it, though, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Nintendo has submitted a patent for a controller that replaces the shoulder buttons with scroll wheels. Aside from that, the controller appears similar in design to the Wii U gamepad. It's believed that the patent is related to the upcoming NX console, which will succeed the Wii U. Nintendo has stated that there will be no further information regarding the NX until next year.
Scroll wheels, what do you think about that, Lee?
I like scroll wheels. So that's the top shoulder buttons then, rather than the triggers, right?
Yeah, so you can like rotate them left and right for some reason.
I'm, going to say I don't see why I would necessarily need multiple scroll wheels, but I'm sure that Nintendo have got a really, really good demo lined up that will make me lament the fact that I don't have multiple scroll wheels instead of these lame shoulder buttons that I'm working for right now.
Yeah, that's the thing with Nintendo is that they're never really content to just copy anyone else and go the safe route. They always have to be innovating, which is it's a respectable position to take.
Sometimes, though, instead of being innovative, they're just like changing a thing and then going to great lengths to tell you why it was a good reason to change that thing, apart from secretly just like, commercial reasons. But who knows what the rest of this controller will have attached to it. Maybe it will have like a pair of stockings at the bottom that you put your feet into so that when you walk, your in-game character walks as well. That's the other bit that they haven't included in that patent yet.
I think that's pretty likely, Lee.
Yeah. Look out for that in the new Nintendo NX.
Hello, and you are listening to Zed Games. That was Thomas Dolby with She Blinded Me with Science, one of many 80s pop hits you can find apparently in Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, which Lee and Ray have been playing.
We have been playing it.
Tell me some of the songs that you have found hidden in Metal Gear Solid 5.
Well, I imperiled myself because I heard the little bit of Take On Me, and I had to go and stop the extraction mission I was in to make sure I had that tape because I wanted to listen to it at all times in my attack helicopter.
Right, so you're in the middle of a mission and you can hear like the cassette. Is it in like a radio where the guards playing it? You have to beat them up and steal their music?
Yeah, it's in a tape player. It's an actual like Sony cassette and a tape player. And I walked past a window in a prison that I have successfully infiltrated, and I'm sneaking out with this prisoner. And I know that at any minute someone is going to find one of the bodies I've left in my wake. And I'm like, that's fine. My helicopter is coming in. It's going to be great. And then I hear that, and I know that everything is going to be terrible in 5 minutes because I have to make sure I get that tape. And we all almost died, but it's fine because now I have Take On Me.
I understand.
The whole game opens with David Bowie's The Man Who Sold the World, which is kind of cool. But on your iDroid, which is your personal little smart device.
Your 1980s smart device, yeah.
I was pleased to find that it comes built in with Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner,
Nice.
Which is the perfect music for, while you're about to enter a siege, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good pre-siege music.
It is kind of weird that you are fighting or sneaking around in Afghanistan fighting Russian soldiers, and all of them have cassette players playing the best of the 80s pop music. They're really, really into it. They're very, very trendy for
Why
Russian.
would they not be?
Yeah. Those Soviets love that Western culture.
Yeah.
Known for it.
Mm-hmm.
We should step back a bit, though.
Yes. So Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, is the second Metal Gear Solid 5 to be released. That's after Ground Zeroes, which came out a little while ago.
Yeah. Yes. Ground Zeroes was almost more of a taster or a teaser for the greater systems that they were working into the Metal Gear Phantom Pain. And so that is a prequel to this and was just a single location that you could sneak around in and kind of approach from different ways. And then all of the cool ideas that they introduced in that game are all here, and they've all been pumped full of steroids, and all of their friends have come as well.
Yep.
Like, this is one of the most complicated and yet sensible stealth games I've encountered, ever. And what I mean by that is that a lot of stealth games, they tend to make their systems and their mechanisms very obvious. You know what the sight cones of different guys are, and you can see their patterns, and you know how they respond to things, and so they kind of feel a bit more like a puzzle game, whereas this is a lot more natural feeling, and you can just do stuff that seems sensible because the people that you're engaging with are dumb idiots like you are and will be distracted by the same stuff that you are, and you can actually make up a lot of like cool stealth tactical decisions on the fly just because like it makes sense when you're a scary guy hiding in the dark and no one knows where you are.
Does that mean, like when you say that it's sensible stealth, does that mean you can't hide in front of someone and then they just won't see you?
Yeah, basically. Like you have to be hidden. You can, if it's dark though and you're like crouched down in grass and they don't have a torch and they're just like looking out because they saw a flicker of movement, they will at least come and have a cursory glance in the area and then they'll be like, oh, well, it was something, and then they'll walk
Rats.
away.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But after they've had that initial little suspicious thing, they'll always be on they'll be a little bit jumpy, won't they?
Yeah.
Like they'll be more responsive to if they hear a sound or something because they've had that initial spook.
Right,
Yeah.
so they never go all the way back down to their base state of alertness.
It depends. Like, even that's done in a very natural way. Like, if it's like nothing, if you've done nothing, then they'll just be like, whatever. But if you've done something slightly weird, if something's a little bit off, like you hear them radioing in and they get advice back. And so that determines what they do. And sometimes they'll be like, it's nothing, stand down, it's fine, have a nap. And then other times they'll be like, look, stay on alert because we're not really sure who's out there. And so the fact that you can never really be too sure how they're going to respond if you make a little mistake like that is fascinating and always keeps you on your toes. We should talk about this, though, for people who don't know what a Metal Gear is, like me.
Yeah.
I had to learn.
So it's a big departure from the series in a lot of ways, but narratively it is sort of like the missing link in the very middle of the story, where one of the characters is having a transformational kind of episode. Think of the Star Wars saga when Anakin transitions into Darth Vader. This is like that sort of key part of the story. We know what happens before, we know what happens after. This is like a time of change for this central character here.
To be clear, though, unlike the transition of Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader, this is cool and fun and something that you actually want to see and doesn't ruin the character that you already thought was cool.
Yes. So the world of Metal Gear Solid is interesting. At first glance, it seems like it could be just your old gung-ho battlefield military dude, but there's actually a kind of sci-fi element at work. We've basically got the Avengers, evil and under the influence of the Russian government here. That's the world that we live in here.
Yeah, sort of. Like that's that's an incredibly truncated version of that. It's a world of, the series has always been obsessed with the Cold War and with conspiracies and with secretive groups manipulating world history. And so in this game, you hear about, the CIA, and you hear about the mysterious side group Cypher, who are led by Zero, and Cypher have their own stealth unit called XOF, and you used to be part of a group called FO. Like, there's a lot of, like, they just keep throwing out all these different organizations who are trying to screw over everyone else. But if you're fresh to the series, which I think a lot of people might be coming into this one because it's the first one on the PS4, it's one of the first ones in a long time that's been on the PC, and it is also a massive departure gameplay-wise than the previous ones. You can actually come into this fresh and just like let this mania wash over you and enjoy a really fantastic like open-world stealth game. The core thing to remember is that you are Snake, also known as Big Boss, also known as Venom Snake, previously known as Naked Snake. You are Snake.
Let's rush past Naked Snake.
Yeah. You're a man with an eye patch and a beard, voiced by Kiefer Sutherland, who is in charge of a secret military organization called the Diamond Dogs. You're trying to build up the Diamond Dogs. They never mention why you're obsessed with David Bowie, but that's fine.
Why wouldn't you be?
Exactly. And so you've got a shadowy enemy that you are fighting while you're also engaging in paramilitary operations in Afghanistan and Africa. Is that it?
That's the gist of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, previously in the game series, we were treated to very long expository cutscenes So that meant that if you were a stranger to the series trying to infiltrate, I guess, if you will, the series as with fresh eyes, it was very hard because you had to extend your patience to deal with these huge story things that just came out of nowhere and lasted anywhere between 15 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, wasn't the ending to Metal Gear Solid like an 80-minute cutscene?
Crazy, yeah. So thankfully here, the story has been sort of pushed into the background almost. We don't have any of these very long cutscenes, although there are some. But you can go hours and hours and hours without even Keith Sutherland saying more than a handful of grunts or sentences.
Mostly he does sort of go, meh. Like that's his line, is just scratches his chin and says, meh, and then everyone talks at him. And I'm happy with that. I think he must be very expensive to hire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Metal Gear Solid 5 stars Venom Snake. He's an infiltration specialist and all-round badass. So what you got is an open world Afghanistan, and your chopper flies you into these little drop zones, and then all of a sudden you've got this little facility that you have to infiltrate or do whatever on your mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I like about it is that so much of the game is spent in this open world that responds really naturally to everything that you do. And bits of it will kind of communicate with other parts as well. And yet, for an open world game, it still manages to pace itself really well, like a more linear game. It has this home base thing that you keep returning to because you want to be building up stuff and talking to your troops and hanging out
The mother
there.
base.
The mother base, yes. So you'll be doing a single mission and you can keep going and you can just keep going and exploring and doing stuff, but you can also, I find myself just hopping a chopper back to the base just to take the moment to like reset myself mentally. But also you do the same thing for Snake, because if he gets into any kind of firefights, he gets splattered with blood, right? And you have to keep taking him back to Mother Base to take a shower, because then he will also be mentally refreshed and will respond slightly better to combat scenarios in the field. So the game keeps you packaging up your gameplay into these little moments, rather than just that thing that happens in all open world games where you just sort of hit that ennui moment of everything just is extending out, and it's very, like it gets a bit dull in the lull points in the middle. But here they've taken that out cleverly. So Metal Gear is a series that has been going for like 20 years now. The first one came out on a Japan-only PC system, and then was ported to the NES in the 80s, and no one likes that port, apparently. It was big in the PlayStation 1, and then big in the PlayStation 2, and then big in the PlayStation 3, and then also had the PS Vita or PSP games. Like, all of these,
Yep.
like, they have... like, the Metal Gear Solid has really been very good to Sony. And they've also been very different. They keep reinventing themselves. So the previous ones were all about mostly being in an enclosed facility and sneaking around, right?
Yes.
And that kind of put me off. I felt like those other games were a bit too claustrophobic, and I never really wanted to play them. And I thought that the way that they did stuff with stealth looked boring, and I didn't realize that actually a lot of the things that I find really fascinating, the attention to detail in here, is all stuff that has been in there since the very early games as well. Like since, well, not like the NES one, but since like the PS1 and PS2 games.
Like being able to climb in a cardboard box and hide.
Well, that is a mainstay, and that's very important, and the best way to hide from anyone. But stuff like you can shoot a guy's radio and destroy it, and he won't be able to call in for reinforcements. And they take that to weird extremes in this case. So if a guy starts to call someone on his radio and you shoot the radio or you shoot him, that will also concern the person on the other end of that radio, and you are in just as much trouble if you if you do that. Like, that's no way of stopping reinforcements from coming in. You actually have to be a lot more thoughtful if that happens. What do you do in that case, Ray? What do you do?
If the guy calls in reinforcements.
Yeah. You see a guy who spots you and calls someone on the radio. What have you done in this game?
Well, what have I done to get to that point?
To get out of that point?
What to get out of that point? Well, the brilliant thing about this game is that there's basically a number of different options.
Mm-hmm.
You get a split second when you're seen to do like one free kind of action. So time slows down, and you can either use that opportunity to shoot them in the face or to duck and roll for cover or do something like that. So that is very helpful. You can also turn that off if you want a more hardcore challenge. But what I tend to do is if I can kill them, I'll do that. Because once you've been seen, it's really hard to get out of that situation. And the best way to stop that is to kill the guy who's right in front of you and then disappear from the area.
A lot of stealth games tend to be far too punitive, or the simulation falls to pieces once you have been discovered, where I feel like Metal Gear actually gets more interesting once your perfect plan starts to fall to pieces. You tend to need to mix things up a bit. You get a bit experimental. And so while I always have the best intentions of doing a completely invisible stealth run, using only tranquilizer darts, if someone spots me, if I get a bit sloppy, I don't go, man, and then go back and redo it. I just deal with the consequences, because the consequences are fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to, use more of your arsenal, and that's also very interesting.
Yeah, the game is most exciting when your plan fails, because the game reacts so convincingly to you screwing up, and it just gets more and more exciting. And some of the best, most tense moments of the game are found when your plan goes awry and you're forced to improvise.
Yeah. Like, I always love, if I've been discovered, and then I realize that I can start to go a bit loud, and so I want to get the helicopter in, but you can't bring in the helicopter to extract yourself out until you've cleared your the anti-aircraft weapons. So you can see the satellite dishes around the place that you will need to destroy to make that happen. And so then that's when I make my way down there and blow those up, which causes more chaos, because suddenly it's not just we saw a guy, it's like there are explosions and systems are down. And so as this plan is happening on the fly, and I'm having to like call in helicopters and knock people out and stuff, like there's this swirling chaos that builds out of that one decision. It's really that moment where you get discovered is the butterfly that causes the storm somewhere else.
So what kind of tools do you have? And I don't mean like what kind of guns you got. I mean like what do you have to deal with situations?
I think the
you
most
mentioned tranquilizer darts.
Tranks are great. You also can get, and I love the fact that you can get rubber bullets for all types of guns, because that's really fun. Like that's a great idea that you are like sneaking around and just like pegging someone with a beanbag in order to steal a giant two-legged robot nuke machine.
Snake also has a robotic arm, which is handy for punching dudes, but he can also sort of flick it around, and it makes a weird robotic noise that guards just have to wonder about what the hell that is. You also have an unlimited supply of empty magazines, so like gun mags.
Right.
And you can throw those. And that's sort of my favorite. That's my go-to tool, is you can just sort of lob them over a box or something, and then the guy hears it and he goes over to investigate. While his back's turned, take that opportunity to dash. You can get your robot arm out and smash him, or you can just alternatively just go to the next little thing of cover.
Mm-hmm.
My absolute favorite thing to do in the game is that if you sneak up on someone and then you draw your weapon on them, Kiefer Sutherland will use one of his 2 lines that he's been paid to say, and he'll be like, "Hey," and you hold them up, and they are held at gunpoint, and you can ask them for information about like where the cool stuff is held in the mission, and then you get them to lie down on the ground, and then they're out until there's a full like base-wide state of emergency, when they will be free to get back up and chase after you. But it is a really great way of taking people out of the fight, because if you just knock someone out, if they'll be stunned, but they'll wake up, and then they might try to figure out why they're on the ground and unconscious instead of on their usual patrol. And tranquilizing guys has certain limits as well, but you can just hold anyone up and make them eat dirt. It's great.
Yeah. Or you can grab them from behind and get them in like a headlock, from that position you can choke them out, stab them in the throat, or interrogate them. So whichever one of those things sounds cool. Now, once your target is unconscious, you have access to a device called the Fulton device.
The Fulton extraction device.
Which is basically some kind of miniature hot air balloon that whips them at a high pace back to your mother base, where they are convinced, forcibly or otherwise, to become a part of your team.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that you have a real... you actually have to make a choice about whether you're doing a stealth mission and whether you're going no kill or whether you actually are going for expediency. A lot of games do try to make you make that decision, like Dishonored is one, but the conditions that surround them seem kind of arbitrary. Dishonored is a game that sort of punishes you for being an assassin, even though it's a game where you're an assassin, whereas here the decision is based not just on that idea of wanting to go through non-lethally, but then also anyone that you actually just knock out and then extract becomes a valuable resource, and they just join your team, and you see them walking around your base later on, and they're like, "Hey boss, thanks for getting me out of there and letting me join your team." That's great. They actually say that.
Yeah, and hilariously around your base you can just use people as punching bags, like just for fun, to practice your punching or to practice your throws, and they always thank you for the privilege.
They say, "Hey boss, why don't you train with me?" And like, that's all you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing you do when you land in Mother Base actually is that a guy salutes you, and you see a prompt with a hand come up that says R2, and you assume, okay, this is a contextual button. You press it and you just punch him in the face, and he thanks you for it. It is absurd.
Now, all the goings on at Mother Base, they actually have a real tangible effect on the gameplay. It's not just a little mini-game kind of distraction. Like, you got different teams at your disposal, a combat team that you can send out to do missions that get rewards, earn you currency, or even extra recruits for your team. There's a research and development division, which if you build up, gains you access to the latest weaponry. That's how you sort of get access to better guns and different weapons, etc. And a medical unit, that helps you out in the field and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like intel as well, so you get information about what's happening around you in the field. The stuff on the base builds back into the stuff that you're doing in the stealth missions, which is really, really great.
It's a really dense game. There's a lot going on. It's very deep. And it's also really cool that in this one, you've got the support of your little army guys, your team. In the other previous games, you're alone. You're behind enemy lines. If you were caught, you'd probably get tortured, but they would deny your existence. Here, like, if you need help, it's there for you. You can call in a chopper to extract you if you want, or to give you covering fire while you disappear.
While playing Ride of the Valkyries.
Yeah,
that's right. You can call in like supply and weapon drops in case you run out of C4. It's just there at your disposal. So you really get the feeling that you've got the support of your allies.
You have friends in this game, and you kind of think of them like that because they really like Big Boss, which is you. So you want to like them, even though these are characters who go on to be in later games or earlier games in the series, but later chronologically, these are villains that you fight in the game. So that's a fun thing. They really humanized these weirdos who all have names like Ocelot and stuff like that. I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that there is an obsessive level of attention to detail in this game that makes everything fun and surprising. The fact that when you are moving around hidden underneath the box, the different types of actual locomotion that you have, where you are either sneaking around or crawling on your belly or just running around or then doing your leap and slide, change the way that you move around in the box, so that if you do the power dive button to when you're avoiding a grenade or being spotted while you have the box up, you end up sliding along on the box on your belly, and if you're going down an incline, that's an excellent way to escape from troops because now you have a cardboard toboggan.
You're absolutely right there in the fact that the attention to detail is staggering, and it's even more impressive when you consider the scope of the game. Like, it's a huge game, and yet every single element of the world has been gone over with the fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's watertight. And with that, I think it brings a lot of replayability. Even though I've sort of charged through the missions, not really caring if I got spotted just for the sake of progression, you can go back and do missions again if you want to get that fabled S rank, which is going in there without being spotted and without killing anybody. And that's something that, for some reason, I'm very inclined to do, even though in other stealth games I couldn't care less about that sort of thing. For some reason, Metal Gear Solid has just brought out this obsessive stealthiness in me that I never knew I had. We've been talking about Metal Gear Solid 5. Now let's sum up in 30 seconds or less, Lee.
It's really, really great. It's one of the best stealth games I've ever played. It is currently both of our obsessions. If you are at least even partially intrigued and wish to experiment with the many systems, even if you're not too interested in a stealth game, as an action game, it is also excellent. It is just like an obsessively detailed, wonderful thing that has been put together by mad people, and there may never be another game like it because Konami are possibly maybe never really going to make another one of these that isn't a pachinko machine.
That's right. A masterpiece, I would say. Yeah, I don't use that word often, but masterpiece. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, you can get it for PS4, Xbox One, 360, PS3, and the PC, which is what you and I have been playing on, Lee. Jody, you've been playing Warhammer 40,000 Regicide.
Yes, I have, which is sort of a chess game, but it's also a strategy game, and it's also, being a Warhammer 40,000 game, about Space Marines shooting up orcs, as they all are. Did you ever play Battle Chess, the old Interplay chess game?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So that's like regular for real chess, only with cool animations, so that when your queen takes a rook, you see some lady with a crystal ball shoot lightning at a living castle that explodes. And it just makes chess slightly more fun for easily bored teenagers, which is what I was playing Battle Chess. And Regicide is that. You can play it as just a perfectly normal chess game with the rules of chess. Just when you take a piece, you see an orc with a gun shoot up a space marine. But then there's the other half of the game, which you play in a completely different mode, where at the end of each turn of chess that you play, you go into this thing called the initiative phase, and suddenly each of your pieces has these special abilities you can power. You have like 3 points a turn to spend doing stuff, which might be throwing a grenade or activating a shield or using like one of your queen's psychic powers, which turns it into a completely different game. Like percentages pop up over the heads of your enemies, like in XCOM when you're choosing who to shoot, and you whittle away their hit points, and then you run out of points in the initiative phase, and then you just go back, and then the computer plays a turn of chess against you and then does the exact same thing.
Oh, weird. Is that disjointed?
It is at first very disjointed, because when you take a piece in the movement phase where you're just playing chess, it's just like knight takes pawn, bish bash bosh, over and done. Whereas when you shoot at someone in the initiative phase, there's like, now you have a 60 whatever % chance to hit, and when you hit, you knocked off like 3 hit points and a point of armor. A little bar over the head went down. It seems much less decisive at first. It's just like playing a regular game of chess, only every 3 or 4 turns somebody extra dies who would not normally have died. But then once you figure it out, there are a lot of combinations of those abilities you can get into, and suddenly it does actually become important. It really clicked for me when I stopped playing the actually kind of boring campaign mode against the computer and went and played it against actual humans on the internet. Because Regicide keeps all of the advanced rules of chess as well as the regular rules, stuff like castling and promotion and en passant captures and all of this. When you play against someone on the internet and they castle early, you realize, you know how to play chess. You actually know what you're doing. And then I use the rules of Regicide to hammer them, and I feel really good about it, because there are a lot of moves that make sense in chess, like staying away from the edges and like dominating the middle, that are terrible moves in Regicide, because if you take the edges in Regicide, it's a lot easier for you to shoot inwards.
Ah.
So you do the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do in chess, and you can dominate someone who is much better than chess at you. So what I like about this game is that I'm really good at it on the internet, whereas actual chess I suck at.
So this is chess for thugs
Yeah,
who wish
basically.
to beat up nerds.
If you're good at XCOM and bad at chess, this is for you.
Do you think that people who are good at chess will be drawn to this?
No, they'll hate it.
They're like purists.
Well, no, because you can play in the classic mode where you are just playing chess with some very brutal animations. And in that mode, it is a fine chess game with like 6 different levels of AI, and the top level is actually pretty smart. And those animations are really gory. I wish Candy was here to hear about them because she would love them. Like, your knights are guys with jetpacks, which explains why they can move over the other units. See?
Yeah.
That makes more sense than horses.
Yeah, wait. Yeah.
So when they use their jetpacks to take a pawn, they fly down out of the sky with a chainsword, which is a chainsaw crossed with a sword, and just carve someone in half with it, and blood sprays all over your black and white chessboard, and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I like the concept of the chain sword. I think it's a cool word as well.
That's because you're still a teenager on the inside.
Yeah, so like, is it an 8x8 sort of grid, just like chess? So
Yeah,
it is actually a version of chess.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
totally. In the campaign mode, though, it sometimes pops bits of terrain down on the board that can't be crossed. So when you're just playing like in skirmish mode, where it's just a 1 versus 1 game, it's a real chessboard. But in the campaign, every now and then parts will be blocked off, which is actually really annoying because one of the other advanced rules that it includes is stalemate. So if your opponent can't make a legal move, it's a draw, no matter how much you are beating them by. If at any point all of their pawns are, stuck against a piece of terrain and can't move forwards, and you've killed everyone else, then stalemate, and you have to go back and do the whole mission again because you didn't win. That was just a draw, according to the dumb rules of dumb chess.
That sounds tedious.
Yes, there's another reason why I suggest getting the hell out of the campaign mode. It's not where the best part of this game is. Stalemate makes sense in real chess because it makes the ending more tense. You don't have that thing like you have in StarCraft or whatever where you're winning, but you have to track down that one guy on the other side of the map to just prove that you've won, and your opponent has nothing they can do except annoy you. Your opponent, even if you're winning them, you're defeating them in chess, still has a chance to force a draw. But if it's the computer doing that because of the dumb layout of the map, then that's annoying.
Jody, you've been talking about Warhammer 40,000 Regicide. That's available for the PC? Is it
Yeah,
available
it's
for any
coming to
other?
tablets later, but at the moment it's only on the PC.
Cool. Thank you very much, Jody. That's going to bring us to the end of this week's episode of Zed Games. Thank you very much for your company. We'll be back next week at the same time. If you'd like to know more about the program, we have a blog, which is zgamesau.net. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook, ZGamesAU.